Good morning, everyone. Hello and welcome to episode number 49 of the Audio Podcast, broadcasting from a beautiful Saturday morning. I came and fired up this morning, Al, and I didn't realise how fired up I should be. So we've got a lot to talk about today, and the main thing that we want to talk about today is sports, because this weekend and the coming week is kind of like a sports lover's wet dream. But something way more interesting came up literally first thing this morning when we rolled in.
So I got a text message this morning from the gym next door showing my sign that's in front of my business with bullet holes in it.
Bullet holes.
Riddled with bullet holes.
Riddled with 19 bullet holes.
So when I came in, I not only noticed the bullet holes, but also all the bullet casings on the ground. 9mm bullet casings, which I believe is from a pistol. That's my knowledge of weapons. Now, so I rang the police because I'm like, I don't feel real comfortable with someone shooting my stuff, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fair enough.
And I go through various steps talking to the police, and then I look down the ramp, and coming out of the bushes, there's a police officer. And I said, oh, okay, there's a police officer here, I'll go talk to them. Turns out the lady that lives behind my sign through the bush was hit, or not hit, her house was hit. She was in the kitchen making a cup of tea.
Yeah, 4:30am, she's in the kitchen making a cup of tea, and
4:18 a.m.
4:18am.
Because she knew, because when she hit the deck, she looked up at the clock and saw it said 4:18 this morning. So they found 2 bullets inside her house, or went through the back of her house, all the way through. So the police were here for a long time.
A few hours this morning, yeah.
Cordoned off the area.
Yeah.
We found only 7 or 8.
So there's 19 holes in the sign. We found 17 bullet 7 bullet casings. So obviously we searched around for quite a while trying to find as many as we possibly could. It could be any number of reasons why you couldn't find them. One of the police said that they may have been shooting from a car, so some of them may have obviously fallen into the car itself. But full on, like super lucky for this lady who lives behind you that she didn't get hit, because she was literally up and out when it was happening.
Yeah.
Just crazy. Like, so obviously then you start thinking about, well, what could happen? Why would this have happened? And to me, it just kind of looks like some, I don't know, I'm going to assume young, drunk people have gotten their hands on a gun and decide to come out to an industrial area and play target practice with your sign. That's what it looks like to me.
I think so.
But hey, you never know.
So 19 bullet holes. A clip usually holds 10. So they've either missed one or left one in the chamber. I'm wondering whether it's one pistol or 2 pistols, if they dual wielded it. I'd love to be the one investigating this. I think this would be a lot of fun. But there was a lot of police here. There was and they taking photos of everything, and I think it's the only reason why they cared is because it hit a little old lady's house.
Yeah,
I'm sure if they hit a car dealer sign, they would not have given.
They'll be like, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah,
used car deal? Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, so that was a bit of excitement for this morning.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'll post a picture up on my socials as soon as we finish here, and we might have to start like a GoFundMe on what to do with the sign. The sign cost me like $1,000.
Yeah, it's $1,000 sign.
Yeah,
and so I guess we'll throw it out to you guys. Do you think that it matters when you show up to a business and the sign's covered in bullet holes?
Yeah.
Does that affect your trust that you place in that business?
Yeah.
If it looks like someone may have been disgruntled with you.
You're not a true car dealer, and I've got no disgruntled customers. I've sold bugger all, so I've got nothing out there, and any warranty jobs I've just paid for.
Yeah, you got to sell cars to have disgruntled customers, don't you? Correct. It's been a bit of a tough patch.
Yeah, so put in the comments if you know what I should do, and also to help me out, because I am at a financial loss to this. Get your friends to subscribe to the channel. Yeah, we've stagnated at 54.
And the ironic thing is that we don't want to be one of those podcasts that ask you every single week to like, share, and subscribe to us. But it actually does really, really help the channel. So if you are enjoying it, if you're not subscribed, because a lot like the stats show that I think about 50% of people who watch our stuff, especially on YouTube, aren't actually subscribed to it. So yeah, if you could subscribe, really does help us out. and we'll maybe help Alex pay for a new sign down the
Yeah,
track.
so we just need you and 1,000 friends each to like and subscribe so we can finally monetize this channel so that I can buy a new sign.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'll be keeping the bullet-riddled one, and I'll bring it inside.
Oh yeah,
Post
it's a memento now.
Yeah, for sure.
One day that might be worth a lot of money.
I'm interested to see what you call this, because there's a definite clickbait opportunity for the tagline of this, or the title of this.
For the title. Yeah, I always, when I'm editing the videos, I always re-listen to everything, then try to come up with something that's relevant.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
It'll be a good one.
We'll see what happens.
There'll be a clickbait one there for sure.
For sure. Take your shots.
You'll figure it out.
So...
Now, don't forget, there's also something that I want to speak about, so I don't know if you want to do the...
No, let's talk about what you want to talk about first, because I'm going to be ranting a lot about sports very, very soon.
Okay, so I'll get my 30% of the words in now.
30%?
Yeah, so I spoke last week about my Hertz shares.
Yeah.
My Hertz shares that were, for those who didn't listen to it before, I basically bought... I missed out years ago paying $9 for them. They were on at $40. They dropped down to $1.40. Thought, yep, not missing this opportunity. Bought them at $1.40. Then I went bankrupt. And this is like a year ago. And my trading account showed at 0. And I logged in the other day, and there they are at over $8. Well, the day after we posted the video, I went back in, and there was more money in there, like in my cash account. And I'm going, why is there money in my cash account? And I thought a previous trade had not gone through. I'm clicking through, like, no, they're all there. Like, it's not like it's an unsettled trade or an open order or anything like that. I dig in deeper, then I go through my emails. I got paid dividends.
Yeah.
I got paid $633 worth of dividends for a $1,000 trade. Plus the trade.
So just to clarify that, so you guys understand, Alex spent $1,000 on these shares years ago. A year ago. So bought $1,000 worth of shares and just got paid a dividend of $688.
$633.
$633.
Plus the shares are worth $4,000. But so I watched a video on it. They're reclassifying the trade again. So it went from HTZ, HTZGQ, to now it's going to be HTZZZ.
Right.
HTZZZ is the new formed one, and they're actually changing the share allocation.
Okay.
It's something like, if you had 100 shares, you get $153 for every 100 HTZGQ shares you had. You got paid $153 dividend, and those shares will equate to 20 shares in the new whatever the new shareholder thing is, and I believe they're going to like $20.
Wow.
So we'll see what that looks like. I'll give you an update because it's a US stock, and I'm doing it on an Australian platform. It's a bit slow, and a lot of the YouTube videos I watched, they were like, just wait, like it'll be fine, we'll just wait. And I remember, I think it was probably 3 months that it took when it changed from HDZ to HDZGQ for it to show up. So I'll keep you posted, but that's been a good trade. Now all these videos said, this does not set a precedent to go and buy shares of bankrupt companies.
No.
Okay, don't do that. But the reason why...
You need to buy pre-bankrupt companies.
The reason why it went gangbusters is they kind of lucked on to Rona. So when the pandy hit, there was a period when the pandemic first hit where no one was travelling, no one was moving, no cars were being built, but no one knew what a car was going to be worth.
Right.
And I remember, like, we were in dealerships then.
Yeah.
We didn't know if finance companies were actually going to pay for cars on orders. We didn't know if insurance companies were going to pay out. We didn't know if manufacturers were actually going to give us the car. We didn't know if manufacturers were going to stop us until we paid cash up front for the cars.
Yeah.
It was wild. And during that period, when obviously Hertz had all these cars, all heavily leveraged, they were in real trouble.
Yeah.
But now, we're at the point where there's still no cars being built, but there's a glut, like they need cars.
Yeah. People need transport because America's opening up again now too.
Yeah, so not only has America opened up, so now you can go and rent the cars, you have to stay within the United States as well, so there's a lot of national travel happening, but also the value of those cars has probably gone up 30 or 40% in that time. So now their really bad financial situation they were in before is now really good.
Yeah, it's just flipped.
It's absolutely flipped. And I'm reaping the benefits. So don't buy bankrupt or pre-bankrupt company stock. Because this is very rare that this happens.
Yeah, and look, fortune favours the brave, right? You got to be in it to win it.
I'm in everything.
All of those old sayings. It's the same as like people who bought Bitcoin back in the day when it was worth nothing. So
I did that.
at the end of the day, make decisions that you think might work, but some of them work and some of them don't. And
Actually,
then every now and then you have a windfall.
You just reminded me, I'm trying to get in on another thing, and you know who you are. I'm trying to pay you the money. You haven't sent me the address. I'm trying to buy into another company.
Right.
You haven't sent me the payment address. Get on it. I'm in. And if the more you make me wait, I'll forget.
Take his deposit. Take his money.
I'm trying to buy into your
Take
business.
his money. As a former sales manager, I'm disgusted in you. Follow up your client. Take their money.
Take the money. It's been like a week now. So, another thing I learned that I really wanted to speak about is how poor the trading on the ASX is. And it made me really, really feel like that is ripe for what's it called when you when like Uber comes,
Reform?
not reform,
Oh, disruption.
disruption. Now, crypto has disrupted traditional markets. But let me give you an example, and I'll give you a real the idiot's guide to stock trading. On the ASX, okay, if you're the first time investor, if you're trying to buy a share, you must spend at least $500
That's right.
on a new stock. So at least 500.
I don't even think that that's just first-time investors.
No, first time of any new stock.
No, but even like so when I buy into the ETF, for example, like so I've been in VAS for almost 12 months.
Yeah.
Every time I buy a new allotment of VAS, I need to buy minimum $500 worth. I can't buy less than that, even if I already own some.
Okay, well you can, on a normal platform, as long as the first one that you bought was 500, then you can go and buy one individual share.
Right.
So that's already a barrier of entry because not everyone has $500 that they can just throw into a stock. Now, crypto, you can put $1 into crypto.
Yeah.
You can put less. Another thing, the ASX is only open from 10 until 4, Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
They work only a few more hours than what I work. That's crazy.
And we spoke about this during the week when you talk about systems that are built to lock out just normal retail investors like all of us, like you consider the fact that you can only trade on the Australian Stock Exchange between the hours of 10 and 4, Monday to Friday. So those are the hours that most regular people are at work, doing their job. A lot of people in their jobs can't just take 5 minutes to go and jump on. I mean, you might be able to do it on your lunch break or something like that, but to go and jump on and buy or sell some shares.
Yeah, to be an active trader.
Yeah.
It does appear that it does. Now, it might not be purposely built that way, but it is that way.
Yeah.
Crypto, on the other hand, 24/7, 7 days a week, all day, every
Every
night.
at the weekends.
Yeah.
I'll give you an example of where that screwed me recently was with my Afterpay shares. So I bought Afterpay at about $120 a share roughly. And as I said last week, they tanked for a while and then they've come back. And then there was a time, it might have been about a month ago, where they had just gone on a run. And I hadn't been paying attention to them. I only noticed it on Friday afternoon when I jumped into my stock app that they'd actually gone up to $129 a share. I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'll just sell out of them now because I said I was going to sell them at even a slight profit and just stick that money into VAS, which is doing really well. But between Friday afternoon and 10 o'clock Monday morning, when I logged in at 10 o'clock to try to sell the shares, instantly the share price dropped to $118. And all of a sudden wasn't worth it anyway.
Because wholesale investors are allowed to invest in those times.
Yeah.
So it's only retail. It's only us. It's only the little guy that is not allowed to trade in those times. So you're at a disadvantage. Crypto fixes that.
Yeah.
So another thing, if you hold on. Sorry, I've had a brain melt. If you want, although stocks are shown to 3 decimal places, so as in $10. 0.105, you're only allowed to you're only actually allowed to trade to 2 decimal points. So they make you round it up. So if it was 105, they would make you pay 0.11. Now think about it. That doesn't sound like much, right? Extrapolate that over $100 million market cap of the company.
Yeah.
The little retail investor has now overpaid a huge amount of money
For sure.
for these companies.
Yeah, because it's scalable.
Well, on crypto, you can go into 8 decimal places.
Yeah, that's right.
5 decimal places.
Yep.
So you're actually getting a far more real version of it. It's not scamming us, right? I really felt like the ASX was like riding a penny farthing when cryptocurrency is like being in a spaceship.
Yeah, yeah.
But the benefit is that on the penny farthing, only the old established are allowed to play in that antiquated space.
Yeah, yeah.
But the beauty is the democratization of investing is for us.
Yeah.
Is for the young people. And these functions are here for us.
Yeah.
And that's why you hear all the time, oh, it's volatile and don't stay away from crypto and rah, rah. They have to say that.
Yeah,
they
that's
don't know. They don't know, or they do know. They're sitting on this old thing going, man, this is far superior.
Yeah, it doesn't benefit anyone with old money to get into new money sources.
If
Or
someone's
to
telling
have
you
new
to
money sources be widely circulated and picked up by the majority of people, because they just want them to play in the old frameworks that they're already winning in.
if someone's telling you to stay out of crypto, it's because A, they have no understanding of it, or B, they're financially better off it not being around. So you're encroaching on their investment.
Yeah, I was watching an interesting video on YouTube yesterday about, and this is obviously the United States, but that systemic wealth inequality issue. And what it was centered around was in America, there is currently a massive wealth transfer going on where you've got extremely wealthy older people. I think they were saying that the over 65s in the United States, their assets are worth like $74 trillion or something like that at this point in time. And what is happening is now that some of those people are dying out or close to, what they're doing is they're actually gifting those assets to their children. And the way that capital gains tax law works in the United States is obviously if you've bought yourself a property and then you sell it at a profit, you pay capital gain tax on that property. However, if you bought a property and it appreciates in value, and then you gift that property to your kids and they sell it, they don't pay capital gains tax. So the problem is you've got people who are fortunate enough to be...
No, that's not right.
In America, that's how it works. It may not be the case in Australia.
No. But if one person pays capital gains tax, they both like.
No. If the person who bought the property, who experiences the growth, gifts it to their children, and the child sells it, no capital gains tax gets paid.
No, but why was there capital gains tax on the previous sale? Like, if the parents sold it, not like didn't gift it.
No.
I hear you.
Yeah.
So explain to me how. So if the parents don't gift it, they sell it, they pay capital gains, correct?
Yes, but that's not what I said.
Let me finish. So if they sell it, they pay capital gains.
Yes.
Okay, but they're gifting it to their kids. Now, when they sell it, how are they not paying capital gains?
Because that's how the law works in America.
No, but is it because there's no purchase price?
Well, yeah, it's a gift. So they've never, because they didn't buy it, there's no capital gains on that item.
Right.
So what can happen is you can be a rich person. You might not even be dead yet, but I can gift it to my children. They can sell the asset, and there's no capital gains tax paid at all, and they can just gift me back the money. So that's happening in America at the moment. And again, America's a far older nation than we are, and I don't know how these laws work in Australia. I would assume. Again, maybe...
Well, you don't pay capital gains on the house that you live in unless you've sold it within 12 months.
Yeah, okay.
But investment properties is capital gains that tiers away every year that you've had it.
Yeah. So it was an extremely interesting video about the systemic issues, especially in America when it comes to wealth creation. Because then, obviously, you've got issues around, say... African American people who were for such a long period of time only allowed to buy in certain suburbs, which had no growth, no appreciation because they're ghettos,
subprime markets.
Yeah, so you can see how in America that wealth gap just kept getting bigger and bigger.
But here's the solution to that problem, because I don't think any young person should get into property now, because it's too highly leveraged, and it's look, it's not going to go backwards. It's never going to go backwards in Australia until some big changes happen, because we've got too much superannuation invested in it.
There's too much riding on it.
There's way too much riding on it. But I also don't think you need to spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 a month on a place to live when you could rent a place for far cheaper and then invest in something else that's going to outperform the housing market. And that's that is my view of what crypto, or the stock market to a point, but crypto even better, because like you said, you can work a 9-to-5 job, Monday to Friday, and still trade on weekends, right? But that you can't do on the ASX. There are functions out there, and there's so much money being made on things that aren't the mainstream.
Yeah,
I've got some viewers of the show that I talk to after that are trying to get in, but because it doesn't make sense to them, they're too scared to do it. And I'm like, okay, you're going to continue to work for your money.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you're not invested, all you are doing is selling your time, your labour, for money.
That's right.
But smart people are having their money build wealth for them. Money makes money in this world.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are just like, oh yeah, my parents told me to go and buy a house. Yeah, of course, because that's what they did.
Yeah, that's right. That's what worked for them. That was the financial strategy that worked best for our parents.
Yeah, but there are other functions out there now that will make you will outperform the current status quo, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. So, and look, and another saying, I'm just full of sayings this morning, but poor people spend, middle class people save, and wealthy people invest.
Yeah.
So if you can get your money working for you, and the thing is, like Alex is saying, it doesn't have to be a lot of money.
No.
You don't have to have all of your savings tied up in something. It can just be little bits.
But it will be all your savings if you buy a property in today's market. Unless you're earning, well into six figures, the majority of your pay will be taken up by a mortgage.
That's right.
And who wins in a mortgage?
The bank does.
The bank. Yep. The bank does.
And the other thing too, like you were saying, with how over-leveraged the housing market is, just the sheer fact that in the last 18 months, with everything that's been going on with this global pandemic and the effects of that economically, like our budget's going to be in deficit until 2060 now due to it, but the housing market's still gone up.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It just defies logic.
Yeah.
So, Ian, when you're talking about investing, you want to buy low, sell high. Hey, it ain't a buy low time at the moment.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I never buy anything at the top of the market.
Yeah.
And it's not you will be locked out of the housing market if you do not invest.
Yeah.
So you got the choice. Either get into it now and unlock yourself, right? So now you're in, and that's the only benefit. Is it mentally you're in?
Yeah.
If you are investing, so you can go and rent, invest the difference to a comfortable level.
Yep.
You will be you'll be able to take your pick of what you want.
Yeah, and
you can always buy back in.
The other thing too, with just that angle of renting somewhere and investing, the difference and what would be between your rent payment and your mortgage payment, that can be a really good thing to get into for when you do your finance application with the bank. Because if you can show that you've already putting an additional X amount away in savings every single week, you are showing that bank that you can afford that extra money. So you'll actually be able to borrow more money because you can demonstrate you're already putting that money aside anyway.
But I'm saying don't borrow.
Just as an option for you if that is the thing that you wanted to do.
Build wealth.
Yeah.
Build wealth. And you've got to work on it. And you've got to, it's not easy. Like I said, the property management thing that I've been through, I'm still going through it. I drove past my properties yesterday.
And the guy's still in it?
No, they're still doing work on it and they're still not finished. So we're weeks in, and every week that's another $400 that I have to pay for a mortgage when there's that no one's in there. So, but that's only because it's leveraged. If I owned the place outright because I had invested and I paid cash and I didn't have loans on it, then I've got no exposure. And you can start small. Like I said, so use Hertz as an example. And look, it's an extreme example, but I have other things that have gone up by 300% as well.
Yep.
To turn 1,000 into 4,600 in a year,
Yeah.
if that was 10,000,
Yeah.
what's it worth? If that was $100,000 invested, and that compounds. You know, if now I've got 4,600 to invest. If I wanted to sell that out and buy something else, that's gonna rise.
Yeah.
Get your money to build wealth for you.
And that's the tip too, is if you do want to buy a house, like I bought a house, like my family, we bought a house, and the reason I bought a house is because we wanted to do the traditional family thing. We wanted to set down roots, we want to raise our kids in a certain area. So for us it made sense, it's what we wanted to do. But what I wish I had done, because I wish I was exposed to it earlier, was when we were because we saved for over 3 years to save our deposit up. I wish that I had that money, that savings, invested in an ETF for that 3 years, because I would have gotten the benefits of compound interest. So then
Dividend payouts.
And dividend payouts, yep. So all that happens is my money that I was saving anyway, I just get more for it.
Well, sorry, no, it's not compound interest that you would get.
Well, it is when you get your dividend and reinvest it, then it compounds.
But it's not compounding interest. You're actually...
It is compounding.
It's not no, because you get paid interest on savings. You don't get paid interest on investing. So your vast investment is not compounding interest. It's the value of your stock increases.
Well, it compounds when you get a dividend payment and you reinvest that money back in, then you're making interest on top of your dividends.
You're not making interest. It's not interest. Interest is a function of savings. Your investment increases.
Okay, so your investment increases, which therefore means your dividend increases.
Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you reinvest that. So you are getting a compounding effect, but it's not interest. And interest at the moment is 0.5%,
Yeah.
1% or something like that. If you've got money in savings, you're doing yourself an injustice. Especially now, in 1 year, if you're getting 0.5% interest, you're at the end of the year you are 1.5% poorer than you were when you started.
Yeah, because of CPI.
Yeah, because of the inflation of our dollar, and it's probably worse than 2%. I would say.
I think it's 2.1%.
Okay, so you're 1.6%. You've got 1.6% less money, even though you earned 0.5% interest in that time.
Yeah.
If it's not invested, you've got rocks in your head.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, speaking of ways that you can make money in Australia, particularly tax-free. Now, the best thing about this podcast is, so I want to talk about sports, right? And I'm going to give you some tips. But the best thing about this is that most of the tips are going to be for events that have already happened. Because this is going to be launched on Monday.
Oh, it's this weekend.
But
you're putting a line in the sand now.
I'm putting a line in the sand now. It's Saturday morning, right? But the thing is, there is so much sports going on at the moment, and I'm super pumped because it's one of my favourite times of the year. First of all, I just want to give a special shout out to Australia's and Queensland's own goddess of tennis, Ash Barty.
Yeah, well done.
Ash Barty tonight at 11 o'clock tonight is playing in the Wimbledon Grand Final. She's the first Australian woman to make the final in 40 years, and she's absolutely on fire at the moment.
Do you know, I was going to say who was the last female to be in tennis? Do you know the name I had in my head?
Who?
Dawn Fraser. Which is wrong.
Yeah, she is a swimmer.
She's a swimmer.
I don't think she's very good at tennis. Mind you, in saying that, she could very well have been, because Ash Barty also played cricket for Australia too.
Did she play AFL as well?
Not formally, but I'm sure she could.
Yeah,
like she's just one of those all-round sports
talented,
people.
yeah.
Yeah, she's an absolute beast.
So we're saying who's she playing?
I think is it Pliskova? Let me look it up right now.
And are we thinking that we're thinking Ash Barty's going to win, right?
I think so. Carolina Pliskova. So she has just been absolutely on fire. Like, her form's been...
Who?
Barty.
Barty.
Yeah. She's just been absolutely... I would not be surprised if she wins in straight sets tonight.
Wow.
So, look, really, really pumped for her. I mean, she's a very short price favourite. She's $1.34 to win. So that obviously tells you... I think that Pliskova was the 8th seed coming into this, and Barty was number 1. Yep. So, look, realistically, it should be a win for Barty, and I wouldn't bet any money on her because she's such short odds, but I'm so pumped to potentially have another Australian Wimbledon champion.
Imagine if you could make your own odds. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, that'd be a good thing. Next thing I want to talk about at the moment is the NBA playoffs, the finals. So you've got the Phoenix Suns versus the Milwaukee Bucks. At the moment, the Suns are up 2-0.
Okay.
Now, there's some really cool storylines about this series, which have got me pumped up.
Is it that both teams shouldn't be there?
Look, the Bucks should be.
Okay.
The Bucks the Bucks' best player is Giannis Antetokounmpo, who was the MVP of the league last year.
White man?
Greek man, actually. The Greek freak, they call him.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's politically correct.
Yeah. Greek lives matter. But absolute beast. And so they, for all intents and purposes, they should be there. The Suns shouldn't at all. And it's one of the best stories I've ever seen. I don't know if the Suns have ever won a championship.
Who plays in the Suns? Because I don't follow NBA either.
So, yeah, you're not going to know literally any of the names. Okay. But the number one person who I want to single out is Chris Paul.
I know Chris Paul.
So, yeah, you'll know Chris Paul. So, the reason why the Suns run is...
White man?
Just if in doubt, no.
No. Well, he's got two very white names.
That is true.
Yeah.
That is true. It's why he's financially successful. But why Chris Paul being in the finals and the Suns being in the finals is special is because obviously basketball's a team sport, and the Suns haven't been to the playoffs in 9 years.
Did you just learn that it's a team sport? Because I've played basketball with you.
Well, sometimes you just need a superstar.
Yeah, carry on.
And these shoulders are very, very fatigued from carrying
from us stabbing
every
back.
team.
Give us the ball.
Every team that I've been in. But the Suns haven't even made the playoffs for like 9 years. They've been a bit of not a laughing stock team, but they're just one of those teams that have just been struggling for a long time. They've had guys like Devin Booker, who is a absolute superstar in the making, but just hasn't had enough support around him. And whenever they get one or two players around them that are starting to go well, they get themselves traded out to better teams to have a chance of winning a championship. So it's like 2 steps forward, 2 steps back sort of thing. So they've just been, milling around. Anyway, this season they got Chris Paul traded to them. And Chris Paul is one of the best point guards in the game. And of all time, in my opinion. He is one of the guys.
Old hand now, right?
He'd be 36 now. And you got to think 36. I think he's 6'2". He's not a big guy.
Yeah.
So to be a 36-year-old 6'2" point guard in the NBA, you kind of go, how much impact is someone of those statistics really going to make?
Yeah.
But Chris Paul's a leader, and he's the leader of the NBA Players Association. So you know that people have a lot of respect for him. Sure. You know that he's an intelligent guy.
Yeah.
Chris Paul has taken... the Phoenix Suns have basically had the same squad for a few years. They've added a couple of extra players, they brought in Jay Crowder this year as well too, which again, good solid player, not a superstar.
Yeah.
I think he's won a championship before, but as a bit part player on better teams.
A fundamentals kind of guy.
Yeah, like a support player. He's the sort of guy that'll give you good defense, he'll give you some rebounds, and he'll hit the occasional 3-point shot. But he's not an integral part of the team.
No dunks.
He can dunk.
Okay.
Would not
Are they field shots? Are they field goals?
Yeah, they are field goals. Dunks are actually field goals as well.
Yeah.
Just so you're aware. But anyway, Chris Paul has come in and led this team that's not made the playoffs in 9 years to the second best result in the league as far as wins-losses in the regular season.
Really?
Second best in the league. Now they're in the finals and they're up 2-0.
Wow.
And
he's worth more money.
Oh, he's worth all the money in the world, right? Yeah. Now, this also, as a long...
He should trade to a good team.
Hey, he might do next year, you never know. But as a long-suffering Lakers fans, one of the reasons why I'm so interested in this is any person who follows the NBA closely will remember that I think it was back in... It might have been 2010, maybe it was a bit earlier than that. There was a massive scandal because Chris Paul was they were trying to trade Chris Paul to the Lakers to play with Kobe.
Right.
And I think they had Kobe, and I think Dwight Howard was there at the same time too, when Dwight was in his prime as well. And the NBA commissioner vetoed the trade because this was before there was any real super teams.
Yep.
So when you had a super team before, it was like the Bulls, where everyone just sort of came up together, so to speak, right? Yeah.
They didn't trade him. They didn't build a team like
that.
No,
because this was back in the day when it was probably more about pride than it was about winning championships just for the sake of winning championships.
Do you know that I watched Kobe's last game in LA?
Did you?
I was in LA.
Yeah,
to
right.
watch his last game.
Like, were you at the game or watched it on TV?
I watched on TV in my undies drinking a 40-ounce Corona.
Nice.
Yeah. But I was in
Was
LA.
it 60 points that he dropped in that game?
It was
Or
more,
62?
64, I think. And he started off shocking. But anyway.
Yeah.
I was there. I was in LA. Well, I watched Kobe play his last game in LA.
Shaquille O'Neal has a funny story about that because everyone knows that him and Kobe had a very contentious relationship. And one of Shaq's big regrets, especially since Kobe died, was that he didn't mend the fences enough with him and build a bridge. But he remembers, I think the last time he spoke to Kobe really was just before his retirement game. And he challenged him, he said, I want you to go out and give me 50. And he goes, so Kobe gave me 60. So, anyway, one of the GOATs.
Okay, so they didn't build this super team.
My son Nate was actually born the day that Kobe died. Fun fact.
Oh, there you go.
Because we were in the hospital when I saw the news come up. Didn't think it was real. Anyway, so they vetoed the Chris Paul trade, which would have made the Lakers an absolute super team.
Sure.
And the thing is, Chris Paul's one of those guys who was probably going to go down history as the greatest point guard to never win a championship.
Yeah.
And he would have won 2, 3, maybe 4 championships if they
easily
went. Yeah. So it's actually so cool to see him lead this young team of guys who've got all this potential. And he is a floor general. He's led them to the championships. And they're 2 up. So they win 2 more games and he gets his first ever ring at the age of 36. So it's going to be an amazing...
When do they play next?
So the next game is, in America, it's on Sunday. So it'll be broadcast in Australia on Monday.
Yep. Watch it after you watch this podcast.
Yep. So watch this one first because it'll be, I think, 10 o'clock is tip-off. 10 a.m. Australian time.
Yep.
Australian Eastern Standard Time. If I had to give you a tip, for if you want to put a bet on Monday's game, I would tip the Bucks to bounce back. Because it is, so the first 2 games are at Phoenix. Next ones will go to Milwaukee. So I would probably tip, I trust greatness. So I would say Giannis Antetokounmpo 35 plus points and Bucks to win. Whatever that's paying, that would be my bet for Monday's game. And one of the reasons why I think the Bucks will bounce back is because this week I have seen one of my new favourite sporting trolls in this playoff series.
Yeah.
Which is, so Giannis Antetokounmpo, superstar player, terrible free throw shooter.
Right.
Kind of like a Shaquille O'Neal-esque free throw shooter.
Yeah.
You're talking 50% at best, sort of thing. And because he's one of those guys who obviously struggles at the free throw line, he doesn't have you can tell he's nervous literally every time he goes to the line.
Yeah.
And you've only got 10 seconds to shoot a free throw in the rules. And he's notorious for taking longer than 10 seconds to shoot his shots.
Right.
So the first 2 games have been in Phoenix. The greatest bit of sporting theatre I've seen in recent times has been the Phoenix crowd chanting, 1, 2, counting down his shots, like counting up to 10 every time.
Yeah.
And because he always goes over it, and you can tell he's now it's just programmed, I've got to shoot when they get to 10.
He's rattled.
And it's rattled him. It's absolutely rattled him.
Genius.
Mind you, in saying that, in his loss yesterday, he still scored 42 points.
Yeah, okay.
And I think he would have been, again, 50% from the free throw line and would have taken, I don't know what it was. Actually, I'll look up the stats.
Does he dunk?
He's a dunking machine.
Why would you bother if it uses so much energy?
Well, it's very efficient. It's an efficient way of scoring. Let me just give you his free throw stats from yesterday's game. So free throw, he made 11 from 18 attempts, so 61%.
Wow.
So, but again, if you get to the free throw line 18 times in a game, it's generally because you're dunking and you're getting fouled on your way to the rim as well. But yeah, so that would be my tip for the Milwaukee game. But it's been great theatre. And whichever of these squads wins, it is a good story because if the Bucks win, for example, so Giannis has been sort of the heir apparent to LeBron James for many years. He's kind of like the next big thing. And him and the other guy who is kind of their superstar, because he's an all-star as well as Chris Middleton, both those guys started their careers on the Bucks. So they didn't get traded in or anything like that. The only other superstar that's on their team is Drew Holiday, who was traded in this year. But yeah, it's not like, you know, you're not talking like James Harden and Kevin Durant getting themselves traded to every other different team, seeing the Bucks knock the Nets out was my last favourite part of this NBA Finals series. Because the Nets created their own super team this year, but you had three guys who, it was like, I don't think their egos were ever going to work fully, because you had James Harden, Kevin Durant, and Kyrie Irving all get traded to the same team.
Yeah.
So on paper, absolute beast of a team, but those guys were never going to actually play together.
The fans don't want super teams to win.
I think look, it depends which city you back, right? Like, if it's your city and they create a super team, fans are pretty lenient and tend to love it, but I don't really like it. And look, for me, it's probably because I grew up playing sports on Tambury Mountain. So I was used to playing for subpar teams. But it was always a point of pride. If we could take a subpar team to the finals and have a good crack at it, to me, that was a win.
Yeah.
I didn't want to just join the best team that I could possibly join and become a passenger and win a championship.
Have you ever won a championship for Tambury Mountain?
No.
I have. I have. Yeah. I'm not an athlete.
No. Yeah, passenger. Which actually is another funny storyline about Giannis Antetokounmpo, in that his brother already has a championship. And his brother is a bench warmer for the Lakers.
Hey, still got the ring.
But he got a ring last year.
He's got the ring.
Yeah. There's also...
What's that famous... What was the white guy from the Bulls? And he always talked about the story. He's like... He said to Jordan, pass it to me.
Oh, the current coach of the Warriors. Shit, what's his name?
What was the line?
Oh, I can't remember. But, yeah, I can't believe I can't remember his name.
And then as the years go by, what is it? The story will be forgotten, but the ring will still stand.
Yeah. Well,
I've butchered that, but...
Well, there's another guy, I think it's Mikal Bridges, who was on the Bucks at the start of the season and traded to the Suns midway through the season. And one of the interesting things about the NBA and the way that it works is if you played for a team at any part during the season and they win the championship, you get a ring. So this dude's already got a ring. It doesn't matter who wins, he already gets one anyway.
That's the best.
And if like he's
that's an efficient way to play.
Yeah, and if he's on the Suns and the Bucks win, he can be like, well, look, I assisted you guys to get there, so
2 rings.
Happy days. All right, so that's enough NBA talk. But again, obviously,
I have a question about sport.
Go for it.
What's going on with football, soccer? What everyone's talking about it,
yeah,
and I'm not following any of it.
I'm not really following it either.
Okay, move on then.
Yeah,
it seems like people seem excited. There's England and Italy. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Put in the comments what do you think. Tag a friend from England and tag a friend from Italy.
The reason why I can't even remember what this cup is called. The reason why I don't care is none of the South American teams are in it. So it's not like the World Cup. I think 9 of the South American teams have been previous World Cup champions, and they're not in this league. So who cares? It's kind of like winning the Commonwealth Games.
Yeah, but I had an English friend explain what it means to be in those Euro leagues, and the way he explained to me, it made total sense why it's so big and so important.
Yeah,
to do well,
because you've got a better opportunity to win if you don't have any South American teams in there.
What do you make of what's the American 100-meter runner that's just been canned for
weed?
For weed.
Look, at the end of the day, that'll be in their rules.
Yeah.
So any Olympic level athlete knows what the rules are before you go to the Olympics. Obviously, it's completely farcical when she gets banned for weed and you've got a bloke who'll be competing in the weightlifting against the women.
Yeah.
That's so farcical, it's not even funny.
Yeah.
But look...
Why aren't women blowing up?
Because the current landscape means that if you blow up over it, you're prejudiced. And I'm with you.
Imagine working your entire life at a sport, only to have someone transition 35 years into their life and absolutely demolishing your entire sport.
But I don't, and again, not to speak out of school here, I don't think that this dude's completely transitioned either. I think he's on like the testosterone, no, the what's it called?
Estrogen.
Yeah, estrogen like therapy, but I don't think he's had the operation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which is why it's even more farcical. It's
Yeah,
like someone
this
can
is-
just identify as a woman, take estrogen, and go and compete against women. It's insane. But we spoke about this during the week. I think the Olympics itself as an institution is becoming a laughing stock, and I don't think that it'll be around for all that long. And this is before all of this stuff.
I said this to the guys at the gym, and they laughed at me.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, we're finding out now that all those elite athletes have been abused as children.
Yep.
To get to that level.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get paid.
Yep.
So it's not worth much money.
No.
And that nationalistic pride is now considered racist in a way.
Yep.
What are we doing? Why are we doing it?
Well, and you got.
I'm not saying get rid of sport. I'm saying get rid of that.
The Olympic Games.
The Olympic
and,
Games.
and the fact that the IOC is one of the most corrupt organisations
Yeah.
on the fucking planet.
And every single place that has Olympic Games goes through massive economic turmoil before and after.
Yeah, and look at Japan. The Japanese government, like, we're in a global fucking pandemic.
Yeah.
They're getting 900 cases of COVID a day, and the Olympics are supposed to kick off next month. And the problem is, if you cancel the Olympics, you foot the entire bill. If the IOC cancels it, they pay for it.
Yeah.
So the Japanese government has invested so much money in this thing that they can't afford to cancel it.
They'll tell you that only 2 cities in Olympic history have made money from the Olympics.
Okay.
And it's because they used pre-existing... It was one... San Francisco was one.
Well,
because they already had grounds built and they just repurposed
but
them.
that's always been against the rules. The IOC, it's always been mandating the rules that if you want an Olympic Games, part of your submission, you have to build new infrastructure.
Yeah, right.
Which is also, again, farcical, but it's also the only reason why Australia's going to get the 2032 Olympic Games. We're the only country that's actually put our hand up for it. But they have actually changed the rules this time around because I think no country was going to do it because they're like, fuck the Olympics.
Yeah.
It makes no sense anymore. Because one of the whole benefits of the Olympic Games in the past was the worldwide coverage. So it was your way of selling your country or your city or your state. So then you could get overseas people would see it and go, Brisbane's holding the Olympic Games. Oh, look how beautiful it is over there. I'm going to go there for a holiday and I'm going to spend some money there. And you got an economic benefit from it. Not only at the time, because you'd have people flying in to paying for accommodation and food and all that sort of stuff to support their teams, but you would show off your city to the rest of the world, and it would be a good advertisement. You don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
People are like, I want to go on a holiday. Well, what's Australia like? Google it. Oh, that looks pretty cool. Let's go there. You don't need it.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like to be an Olympic level athlete, you're training for 4 years. So what is the cost of trying to train for 4 years to win an event that you make no money for? Like, if you're lucky, you might get some endorsement deal, which might last for 6 months after the Olympics before everyone forgets your name.
Yeah.
Because they don't care.
Yeah.
So,
well, I would say now, in the time of social media, you could win World Cups and get the same amount of coverage as, like, sure, it's a massive grandstand. Like, don't get me wrong, it is a huge grandstand. But I'd rather have more decentralised grandstands for far less money.
yeah.
To me, seems a smarter way of...
Well, speaking of decentralised grandstands, the Japanese government's just had to make the decision that no fans can attend the events. Imagine training for 4 years to compete in an empty stadium.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah.
It's a global fucking pandemic. How do we even, like, why are we at a point where this thing's even on?
The money.
It's all about money.
It's the money.
All about money. Anyway, off the Olympics. So we've done Ash Barty, we've done NBA. Next thing.
We did soccer.
Yeah, we've done soccer. Who cares? Next.
Lots of people care.
Yeah, lots of people do care about soccer. I don't, which is why I'm calling it soccer, not football.
Yeah. Even though it really is far more football than what your version of football is.
Yeah.
If you think about it, that's really dumb. Why is rugby league called football when it barely touches the feet?
Well, it does touch the feet.
That just goes to show that the
It's a
person
ball
named
that's
it
shaped like
had
a foot.
CTE.
It's a ball that's shaped like a foot.
If your feet are shaped like that, go see a doctor.
Next thing. It is a Conor McGregor fight week.
Oh, yeah.
So, UFC 264 is on tomorrow, and it's actually a really super stacked card from top to bottom. I'm very, very excited about this. So you got Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier. It'll be the third time they fight. It is the rubber match. Conor won the first one down at featherweight years ago, knocked him out. Dustin Poirier won the rematch at lightweight in January this year by second round knockout as well. And so it is the third fight. Now, you knowing nothing about fighting at all, what's your prediction?
I just watched the clip. Who's the other guy? Poirier.
Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier, absolute beast.
He wins.
He'd be the number one lightweight in the world.
He wins the same way he won in the second one.
Okay.
Do you know why?
Why?
Because if I've got $100 million, I don't need to fight.
Yeah. I disagree with you. So...
Imagine if only there was a way that you and I could wager against each other.
Yeah. It'd be really good if someone came up with something like that.
Come.
Yeah. Look, I disagree with you, and the reason why is now again when I said I was going to give you some tips before, I'm not putting a bet on this fight. I think it's too close. If I had to bet on anything, I would say I would bet on the over under of total rounds, and I would bet the under. So if the total rounds is like 2.5 rounds, I would bet that it is over within 2.5 rounds.
Yeah. So I'm Poirier in the second.
Okay, so you can go Poirier in the second.
Yep.
I'm going to go Conor McGregor in the second. Okay. By TKO. And the reason why is because I can't like you said, your reasoning is sound of he's got hundreds of millions of dollars, so he doesn't need to fight. That's what happened to him last time. So in the January fight, he rolled into it. He's got, I think it was $600 million in the bank because he sold his a stake of proper 12,
which is properly shit.
Yeah, but money's money. And
put in the comments if you like proper 12.
I think he came into
and then
that
punch
fight,
yourself in the dick.
Yeah,
because you don't know anything.
Yeah, put in the comments and we'll ban you.
Yeah,
but he came into that one, and it's that perfect thing of he has knocked out Dustin Poirier before. I think he overlooked him. And he didn't train hard enough for it. The other problem too is there was an undercurrent of the last fight that he'd had prior to that was Donald Cowboy Cerrone, and he just mopped the floor with him.
Yeah. Cerrone is 200 years
Oliver,
old.
yeah, he's lost a lot of fights recently.
Yeah.
And the fight he had prior to that was Floyd Mayweather back in 2017.
Yeah.
Now, before they announced the fight with Poirier, because that was originally never even on the cards either. That came about as they were going to do, like, Conor was not getting what he wanted from the UFC, so literally hit up Poirier going, hey, let's do a charity fight.
Yeah.
And they were going to promote it under McGregor Sports Entertainment, which obviously they weren't going to be able to do anyway because they've got UFC contracts. But they literally forced the UFC's hands into actually making that fight in the first place. And the whole point of it was to raise money for Dustin Poirier's charity. So... anyway, I feel like he rolled into that underprepared, but at the same time, there was all these whispers and talks about Conor McGregor potentially fighting Manny Pacquiao, which means he was just doing boxing training.
Yeah.
So he'd been boxing training for Floyd Mayweather. He didn't have to train that hard to steamroll Cowboy. No disrespect to Cowboy, but he's just past it, and Conor's still pretty much in his
chin
prime.
was made of a dish sponge.
It's not that. He just got overwhelmed.
Yeah.
His chin's still pretty good, but he just got overwhelmed. But I don't feel like Conor is going to make the same mistake this time around. He looks way fitter than he was in January. He is way pricklier. He was very respectful back in January, which is not his normal thing. He is way more aggressive all the time now. Yeah.
Do you know what my argument is? He knows how to lose now. He's more comfortable with losing now than he's ever been.
He's never lost a rematch.
Yeah, okay, but he's lost. He's lost 2 out of 3 fights.
Yeah, Dustin Poirier's lost fights too.
I get it, but to go from where McGregor was, like a very winning guy, to a not so winning guy who doesn't need to win. That's why I'm giving it to Poirier.
Well, should we make it interesting? Do you want to put a wager on it?
Yeah.
How much?
Well, aren't we going? We're going for lunch. It's a beer. It's worth a beer.
I'm not drinking at the moment.
Oh, aren't you?
No.
Lunch.
All right, putting lunch on it.
Oh, we can't because we're watching it after.
Well, yeah, we can put next week's lunch on it.
Okay.
Anyway, all right. So you've heard it here. So I'm on the McGregor train. He's on Dustin Poirier.
Yeah.
Now, there are some other big fights on the card. If you wanted to make some money, you've already missed out on the best opportunity for it. And I sent a tip through to the boys last week. There's a fight on the undercard, which is Ryan Hall versus a guy called Ilia Topuria. And
White man?
yep. And the odds show that Topuria is the pretty not massive favourite, but he's a fairly comfortably backed favourite. And when you look at it on paper, that's got all the reasons why you would generally back one guy over another. He's 24 years old, undefeated. He's looked very good in his last couple of outings. Ryan Hall, 36 years old, so a lot older. And generally in fighting terms, if you knew nothing about both fighters, you just bet on the younger guy. Sure. That's typically how you make your money. Their records are, I think Ryan Hall might have a loss on his record, but they've had about the same amount of fights. So It looks like from an experience perspective, maybe they've got the same amount of experience. But Ryan Hall is an absolute jiu-jitsu leg lock mastermind.
Right.
And one of the reasons why he has such a short record, so I think he's only got 10 or 11 professional fights on his record. He hasn't been able to book a fight for 3 years.
That's so fascinating.
Because he's a leg lock master. And the problem is if you get leg locked, you're either tapping quickly, which means you know you're going to lose. If you don't tap, you could have your knee blown out. That could be 2 years of your career gone.
Great opportunity for a UFC fighter with no legs to take that fight.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So we'll see if that ever actually happens. But, so I actually got on Ryan Hall by submission last weekend, which at the time was paying $9, 9 to 1. Right. Which is massive, huge, massive odds. To the point that I've just logged back in to check it. Obviously, a lot of people have realised how good a value it is because the odds have gone all the way down to $4.33.
Right.
Which is less than half. I've never seen fight odds move that much. I think he's a big, even at $4.33 by sub, it's still pretty good value.
Yeah.
And look, obviously, the best thing about fighting is that literally anything can happen. Yeah. So there's every chance that you could be listening to this on Monday morning going, you fucking idiot, because he got knocked the fuck out.
Yeah.
You never know, but I think that's a pretty solid way to 4x your money, if we're talking investing terms. There's a couple of which we are not. We're not talking about investing terms. There's a couple other fights I wanted to talk about briefly. The co-main event is Stephen Thompson versus Gilbert Burns. Stephen Thompson is Wonder Boy. He's a karate superstar. Right. Getting a little bit older. He's about 38 years old. Versus Gilbert Burns, who is a jiu-jitsu black belt and just an absolute jiu-jitsu beast who has fallen in love a little bit with striking over recent years. Mm-hmm. Both are former title challengers. Mm-hmm. So Stephen Thompson had a draw with Tyron Woodley when he was champion and then lost to him.
Yeah.
And Gilbert Burns just lost by, I think it was 3rd or 4th round knockout to the current champion, Kamaru Usman.
Yeah. Jiu-jitsu always beats karate.
So, I've put money on Stephen Thompson to win by knockout. And the reason being, one of the biggest problems with jiu-jitsu players in MMA has always been their ability to actually get a takedown. Because in jiu-jitsu, if you're just having a jiu-jitsu competition, you've got to win by submission. So oftentimes, people are just going to the ground anyway. So a lot of the times, a jiu-jitsu player's actually got a tough time to get someone to the ground in the first place.
Yeah.
Which a wrestler is far better at.
Sure.
Now, obviously, Stephen Thompson ain't no wrestler because he's a karate guy. But he did fight Tyron Woodley twice, who was one of the best wrestlers in the UFC at the time that they were fighting, and it did extremely well as far as the wrestling aspect goes. So, did get taken down a few times, but got up as well. I also take into consideration the fact that Stephen Thompson's a career welterweight. Gilbert Burns has come up from lightweight only maybe a year or two ago, so he is a smaller guy. I can just see Stephen Thompson picking him apart from the outside. He's got amazing footwork, especially lateral footwork, very good at cutting angles and stuff like that. And I just feel like he'll touch him up until Gilbert gets frustrated and Gilbert will end up rushing in on something, whether it's a head kick or a straight right or something like that. So my money's on Stephen Thompson by TKO,
Yep.
which is, and again, paying $4.30 or something like that
Yep.
at the moment. Yeah, that's what I feel like is going to happen in that fight. The other fight I wanted to talk about briefly is the Aussie boy, Tai Tuivasa, is fighting Greg Hardy. Now, do you know who Greg Hardy is?
White man?
Black man. Mm-hmm. Greg Hardy is the former NFL player who got punted from the NFL for domestic violence against his missus.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
He's had lots of practice.
Yeah. He's one of those guys who, he's just an athlete. Like the NFL
And
players...
a dickhead.
And a dickhead, yeah. But NFL players, in my opinion, are the peak athletes on the planet. As far as actual athleticism goes, right. they're the peak. So he has been able to have a degree of success in the UFC. He's not going to beat the higher echelon guys. I don't think Ty's in the top 15 at the moment. Because he was on, I think he was in the top 10 and then he had like a 3-fight winning streak when he just ran into guys who were just far more experienced than he was. Right. And the biggest problem with Ty's game is he's got no ground game. So he's an amazing striker. Was Mark Hunt's training partner for years.
Right.
So when Mark Hunt was Mark Hunt, he was the guy who was training with him when he was a lot younger. So Greg
Does Mark Hunt remember that they trained together?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
So Greg Hardy's one of those guys who, ever since he's joined the roster, everyone just wants to see him get his head taken off because of his past.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know the guy, but
yeah. Yeah,
if you put hands on your missus.
Yeah, obviously it's pretty bad. Now I do want to feel like every person deserves the chance to redeem themselves.
For sure.
Right? I don't want to pigeonhole anyone into being a particular type of person because of a mistake they've made in the past. So I'm all for Greg Hardy, to try to do the right things to become a better person. Mm-hmm. In saying that, I also want to see him get knocked the fuck out. And Ty loves to bang. Right. So his nickname's Bam Bam. Yeah. He loves to bang. Greg Hardy's a stand-up fighter as well. I'm on Tai Tuivasa to win by TKO. And I don't know what round. I don't think it'll be first round. I wouldn't be surprised if it's late second or maybe third round. Mm-hmm. Because Greg Hardy can gas. He's a big dude. And he can gas out. Now, Tai Tuivasa, he's a big dude. He's a fat dude as well. Mm. But he's remarkably efficient with his energy. And over the last couple of fights he's had, he's actually looked really, really good as far as energy expenditure goes. So I wouldn't be surprised if he starts to take over around that sort of early to mid round 2 and then just puts too much pressure on Hardy to the point where he wilts.
Yeah.
Hardy actually fought another Aussie guy called Ben Sassoli a while ago. And there was a big scandal with that because I think it was between rounds 2 and 3. Greg Hardy was allowed to use an asthma puffer.
Oh,
do you remember that?
Yeah. Wild. That's wild.
And yeah, I think he was gassed. He was Gonski. Then he's out.
Just getting the airways cleared by a Ventolin.
Yeah. So that was a shame because I reckon Ben Sassoli actually had a chance of finishing that fight in the third. So bit of a scandal there. I don't think Ty gives him the same opportunity. So I think he takes him out. But
it'll be a good card.
Oh, it's going
to watch it. We'll go to the Grand.
Yeah, it's gone. Oh, no, we'll go to Southport Sharks. It'll be close to where we're at. It's actually easier to get a seat in Southport Sharks. Well, we're going to Black Ops afterwards. So
that's right. Yeah.
Cool. So that'll be great. Now, next sporting event coming up, State of Origin 3 next week.
Who gives a shit?
Queensland
Bring your steamroller, New South Wales.
Nah, Queensland actually have an opportunity to win this game because the New South Wales halves pairing is out.
And they don't need to win.
Well, they don't need to win, for sure. But, I mean, at least I don't think there's such a thing as a dead rubber in an Origin game. I really don't think there is.
Dead rubber.
A dead rubber. A dead rubber is generally if you've got a 3-game series and it's already been decided, the last one's a dead rubber.
It's also a used antiphylactic.
You find a lot of dead rubbers on Surfers Paradise Beach on a Sunday morning. Yeah.
That's a good way to... Yeah, I think that's how Queensland have played. They've played like dead rubbers.
Yeah, so you think it's all part of a greater plan?
Yeah.
Yeah, have them punch themselves out.
Yeah.
Look, New South Wales halves, Nathan Cleary, Jerome Luai, both out due to injury. I think that definitely upsets the balance of the team to a degree. I do think that Queensland has the chance to bounce back. They've obviously got a lot more riding on it as far as a pride perspective, because I'm pretty sure they've been beaten like 76-6 so far this series.
Is that not the greatest? I heard some stat, the greatest points differential in an Origin game since the 50s.
If New South Wales loses this game by less than 10 points, it'll still be the greatest points differential in a series in history.
In history?
In the history of State of Origin. So 40 years of State of Origin, it'll still be the best beating, points-wise, in a series. So look, obviously...
Well played, New South Wales.
Oh yeah, just...
Well played.
Now Queensland's starting to understand what it was like for New South Wales for so many years. When Queensland just had their purple patch of the, you've got Hall of Famers all on the team at the same time.
But I didn't see, although I never felt, and I don't have a photographic memory like you do, I never felt like Queensland wiped the floor.
No, they didn't.
Yeah, because to me this really felt like B div versus the best of A.
Yeah. Well, there's one interesting little team makeup stat which I think shows you the differences in depth at the moment. So, in last game, Queensland had Valentine Holmes as their fullback, and he's probably our fourth choice fullback.
Right.
Because you had Kalen Ponga injured, you had AJ Brimson injured, you had Reece Walsh, who was going to be brought in at 18 years old after playing 7 NRL games, but he's a budding superstar, who the Broncos got rid of this year, injured. And Val Holmes then played fullback. Now, he is okay as a fullback, but he's a winger, really.
Right.
Then you look at the New South Wales team. The New South Wales team, the majority of their backline was fullbacks. You had Tedesco at fullback, who was the best fullback on the planet. You had Tommy Turbo in the centres, who is probably the best player in the comp at the moment. Like, as far as form goes, I've never seen a player have a vein of form as rich as Turbo has in the last 3 months. He's off his head, absolutely off his head. And to show his value to the Manly team, like last week they stomped the Bulldogs 66-0. This week you took him and Daly Cherry-Evans out of the team, and they got beaten by the Raiders by like 20 points. Who the Raiders got pumped 44-6 by the Titans last weekend. So it just shows you how valuable to that team he is.
And how broken the sport is.
And how broken the sport is at the moment, for sure. We've got some stuff to work on. So you've got best fullback in the world at fullback. You've got the best player in the league as a fullback in the centres. You've got Latrell Mitchell, who's he's New South Wales version of Greg Inglis. He's another, generational player. Well, he's in centre on the other side. So Queensland's got their fourth choice fullback playing fullback.
Yeah, they've got 4
New
of the best
South Wales has got has got 3 of the best fullbacks in the league in the same back line. And it makes them so dangerous too, because fullbacks are so used to watching for support player opportunities, and oftentimes even good centres get criticised because they're like, I'm right side centre, so I'm sticking on the right hand side of the field, and I'll wait until the ball comes to this side, and then I'll get an opportunity. These guys like Latrell and Turbo are just roaming and hunting for opportunities, which is super scary.
And breaking lines on the Mexican
and
US
if
border.
They're broken, you can't catch them.
Yeah,
and if you can catch them, they're just going to pass the ball to Josh Adokar, who's the fastest guy in the league.
Yeah.
So look, that's going to be our biggest, Queensland's biggest issue is trying to contain, particularly Turbo, because we've had to bring in another debutant. Hamiso Tabuai Fido, I think is his name.
White man?
No, funnily enough. You're very interested in race today, Alex. I must admit, I've noticed.
Yeah, I'm trying to build faces to names.
Right.
Colours of faces to
names.
names.
Fair enough. He's on debut. He's a good solid player. He's super fast, which you'll need to probably chase these players down.
Yeah.
But him coming into the team has finally allowed us to move Kurt Capewell, which again, when you're talking about team depth, we've had a second role playing centre for almost 2 years. Kurt Capewell's been playing in the centres. He's an amazing player. He's a second rower. He shouldn't be at centre.
Yeah.
Centre's one of the most specialised defensive positions on the field because it's probably the position where you're going to make the most one-on-one tackles and one-on-one decisions.
Why have we got no respect for that? Why have we got no respect for the...
It's not no respect. We got no players. We got no depth. And a lot
I'm
of
going
it's-
New South Wales to win.
I think New South Wales will probably win it, but I think that it's going to be a lot closer than it has been. And the main reason why I feel that is because the halves, which are Nathan Cleary and Jerome Luai, who they've been pulling the strings, they're both out due to injury. That has to be a massive disruption to the New South Wales team.
Or it doesn't.
We'll
see. We'll see. Time will
Or
tell.
you never know.
Time will
So,
tell.
hey, I've got no bet for you for... Actually, no, I will give you a bet. I would go Turbo 2 or more tries.
Yeah.
And who would I go? I'd probably just do a same game multi, 3 things. Tommy Turbo 2 or more tries, Latrell Mitchell anytime try scorer, Josh Adokar anytime try scorer. So I'm tipping for
New South Wales to win.
4 different New South Wales tries.
There you go.
That would be my same game multi. So and you'll have an opportunity to put that one on this week because the game will be on Wednesday night.
Can I also say that I'm working on something, so it all fits in.
Mm.
And if you've made it this far through the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
here's a reward for you. Watch this space. Watch this space because I'm building something in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I'm building something. It's going to be huge. I'm so excited by it. I can't say too much about it, but the plan is done.
Mm-hmm.
The funding is there. We're working on this very, very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be very exciting. And at this stage, I'll be giving away effectively parts of it
Mm-hmm.
for free.
Mm.
So watch this space and hit me up when it comes up. Anyone that hears this part right now, hit me up and say, hey, you said you're going to give me a piece because I'll give you a piece.
Yeah, and from an investing perspective, gambling in Australia is one of the best investments that you can do because it's tax-free. It's one of the only things in Australia that if you win on gambling, it is tax-free
That's
money,
why
baby.
Australia's spent $230
Tax-free
billion
money,
a year.
baby.
$230 billion. We gamble in Australia more than the US. How insane is that?
Yeah. So, look, obviously, gamble responsibly.
This is not financial advice.
Yeah, this isn't financial advice at all. But gambling aside, from an absolute sporting nuts perspective, I'm pumped up because there's so much good quality sport going on at the moment. Like with the NBA, I basically didn't watch the last 2 or 3 months worth of regular season games because they pissed me off because it sucked. It was terrible. I mentioned on the podcast the other week about them changing some rules for next year, which I can't wait for. Those rules ruined the regular season for me,
Right?
Because basketball's supposed to be about putting the ball in the hoop more than the other team puts the ball in the hoop efficiently. What happened this season, or even last season as well, it's become more about trying to draw fake fouls on the opposition than just trying to score.
Soccer. It's becoming soccer. Football.
Yeah, it's not basketball.
Yeah.
It's not basketball. If you want to make it like the winner, it was kind of like...
It's a pantomime.
Yeah, whoever got the most free throws wins the game.
Yeah.
And that's not what it should be about.
No.
It should be about, 3-point shots, driving to the rim, like proper actually scoring the basketball.
Yeah.
When you watch like Michael Jordan's documentary and you watch the way that teams defended him physically
Yeah.
and still put up the numbers that he did, that's why he's the best player of all time.
Yeah,
That's
I
why
agree. He's
a prime Michael Jordan, in these current rule sets, he'd be scoring 80 points a game.
Yeah.
Because, James Harden, I fucking hate him. Yeah, he's a great 3-point shooter, great passer, whatever. It's real easy to score when you're a good shooter and no one's allowed to defend you.
Yeah.
So, from next year, he'll be fucked.
Because what's that? The rule they're changing?
So one of the rules they're changing is you can't, when you go to take a shot, you can't just reach out and like touch another player in your shooting motion and get fouled for that anymore. That's now going to be an offensive foul. One of the other ones is, and this is something that Trae Young does. So what Trae Young does, because he's a very fast, smaller player, he will he'll run the ball down to a defender. He'll quickly move past that defender. As that defender trails him, he'll then stop and jump backwards into that player and take a shot.
Oh,
And they just call a foul on the other player. So that's going to be an offensive foul. So yeah, you might actually see some actual basketball next year. But I also feel like the umpires in the final series saw those announcements and actually changed their
the way
their refereeing accordingly.
Yeah.
Because
like they did for Origin.
Yeah. But I really noticed it in the Atlanta Hawks series where, because it was like, I think it was like after the second game in the series against the Bucks, that they changed those rules, and all of a sudden, pretty much overnight, Trae Young wasn't a factor anymore.
Good.
And
props to those refs.
Yeah, and look, it's on. Trae Young's a great player. He's doing what every player would do, which is
milk the rules.
Exactly right.
Yeah,
How is the most efficient way to score?
Yep.
Well, if I can draw fouls on literally anyone who tries to defend me, that's the best way to do it. Because then you put the other team in foul trouble as well, right? So, yeah, next year I think you're actually going to see some really, really good basketball. But the next week you're going to see some good basketball too. Both first games have been great to watch.
Cool.
So, guys, thank you for joining us. If you've made it this far, I hope you like sports. You obviously do like sports if you made it this far. But thank you very much for joining us. Enjoy UFC 264. Let's go Ash Barty tonight. 11 o'clock tonight. You're not going to get this beforehand anyway, but 11 o'clock tonight. Tune in. ESP. I hope you guys are all listening from home via your brains. Go Ash Barty. Bring it home. Thanks for joining us. See you next RDA.
See ya.